Welcome into Golden State Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Coming up on today's show, some Golden State Warriors trade rumors and trade ideas. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below as we approach 25,000 subscribers. We're killing the game here on Warriors Today. A big reason for that, all of you tuning in and showing us some support. So the question I want to tackle, and really the sole purpose of this show, do the Golden State Warriors need a big man who's better than the likes of James Wiseman, better than the journeyman that's been Kevon Looney, has really been an instrumental part of this Warriors team over the last several years, especially considering how the Warriors looked in that loss to the Phoenix Suns the other night. And if you're watching this on Friday, Golden State, Phoenix once again meeting up, this time in San Francisco at the Chase Center. Now, when I watched that game the other night, DeAndre Ayton was incredibly dominant, and there wasn't a player on the Warriors roster that could really match up against him. And I'm thinking, okay, after watching Ayton go for 24 points, 11 of 19 shooting, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks, a really great and elite rim-running big who's excellent on the defensive end of the floor, can do a multitude of things on the offensive end of the floor. I'm not sure there's a Warriors player on the roster who can kind of combat and go up against DeAndre Ayton. Now, I've said it here on the channel, I am very high on James Wiseman. I'm just not sure if a second-year Wiseman can match up against DeAndre Ayton. And the big reason we're having this conversation is because when I watched that game last night, I'm a little bit concerned about the thinness, if you will, of the Warriors' front court. And I'm thinking that it's by far and away the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors as not only the two best teams in the NBA, but the two best teams in the Western Conference. And if that is the Western Conference Finals matchup, the Warriors might have some trouble in the span of a 7-game series going up against DeAndre Ayton. So, do they need to make a trade for an elite big man out there who might give you more against the likes of Ayton than James Wiseman or Kevon Looney would? I think Golden State can win a title this year. So why not go all in? Now, I like the current construction of this roster. I think Bob Myers has done a tremendous job of putting all of these pieces together. And I'm not overly concerned about how Steph Curry played the other night in Phoenix. I'm not overly concerned about the 18 and 19-point second and fourth quarters for Golden State. The offense flatline. Steph wasn't bad. He just missed a lot of shots. And sometimes with shooters, with high-volume shooters especially, they have cold spells. And that was the cold spell for Steph Curry. Now, I like what Phoenix did defensively to double team and shut down and kind of pin in on Steph Curry. But really, my biggest takeaway from that loss was Golden State doesn't have a cat who is close to DeAndre Ayton, especially considering the strides that he has made over the last couple of years, especially last year. So coming up here in just a few moments, some trade ideas that would net the Warriors a legitimate big man who might be better than Wiseman or Looney. But first, let me ask you this question. This is always also going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, just scroll on down and get your votes in. Do the Warriors need to trade for a big man, a forward or a center? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get those votes in the comment section down below. The first trade idea I cooked up. The Golden State Warriors would trade away James Wiseman and Damian Lee for Jusuf Nurkic. I like Nurkic as a player, but I am a little bit concerned about the injury issues that he has suffered over the last couple of years. And really, since he suffered that horrific leg injury a couple years ago, he has not been the same player. Really, with Nurkic, it's always been about the potential after the injury. Before it, he was really good offensively, really good defensively. He suffers that injury in which he basically breaks his leg in half and hasn't been able to rebound as an athlete. Now, I'm intrigued by the idea because of what Nurkic could be, who he is, and the potential he has in the Golden State Warriors system. So far this year, he's been pretty solid. 12.5 points per game, little less than 11 rebounds. He's also a decent passer for a big man and a solid defender who I think can be even better. Would he be a better defender playing alongside Draymond Green? Would he be a better defender playing in this Warriors system? He's given you a little less than a block per night and 1.2 steals per game, but I'm just not sure about this deal because of the long-term health status of Nurkic. But here's the problem, and here's the talking point of today's show. We're not really projecting forward. We're talking about this year and this year alone. And if Golden State thinks that they're a piece or two away from competing and winning a championship, it might be worth it to trade away a young asset in James Wiseman to get a player back like Nurkic, because Nurkic ready to play, ready to contribute more than James Wiseman is this year. And by losing Damian Lee, he's been a really good story. A guy who was undrafted, journeyman, had to spend a lot of time in the NBA G League, especially with the Santa Cruz Warriors. He's proved to be a pretty solid player, but you really wouldn't be losing all that much if you do trade away Damian Lee. Now, I do like the upside of James Wiseman, but once again, this is if we put all of our chips on the table, all in for this year. Want to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor, Fanatics, for making Golden State Warriors Today possible, and they are hooking everybody up with a wonderful deal. This Golden State Warriors hoodie is 75% off. Yes, Nike gear for 75% off for the holiday season, as long as you use that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/Warriors hoodie. That link is in the description as well as the comment section of this video if you want to treat yourself or a loved one during the holiday season. Another trade idea, and by the way, I put these in the ESPN NBA trade machine, so the financials do work with these contracts and with these trades. Warriors would get back Myles Turner, a guy who we've talked a lot about here on the channel. The Pacers would once again get James Wiseman, and this time instead of Damian Lee, it's Kevon Looney. I really want to see what Myles Turner can do on a legitimate playoff squad with a really good culture and a really good system, because, man, his highs are extremely high. And when this guy is playing an elite level of basketball, he really is tremendous. Now, this year he's had a couple of monster games. His season averages not like some of those highs that I talk about, but you don't get many lows with Myles Turner. And I think if you put him on this Warriors roster, they'd be very good. 12.5 points per game. He's basically a walking double-double. Last year, he led the NBA in blocks per night, and this year, he's been leading or atop the NBA leaders in blocks as well. That's kind of fluctuated night in and night out. I'd really just love to see Myles Turner on the Golden State Warriors. I think that he could spread the floor as a big man because he's attempting more than 4 3-point shots per night. He's an excellent shot blocker. You can use him in a two-man game as a screener, as a pick and roller, or as a guy who can pick and pop, because he's been able to shoot the basketball at a pretty decent level. And I don't think you're losing a ton with Wiseman and Kevon Looney. And Myles Turner is still young, in his mid to late 20s, and still projects as a very good player who is still improving up to this point. So this would also be a win now move, but more than Nurkic, I think you'd get Myles Turner for the long run as well. Another guy who we have to discuss, because there have been a bunch of rumors about maybe the Warriors having interest in a guy like Ben Simmons. Yes, Ben Simmons thinks of himself as a point guard, and a lot of other people project him as a point guard. He certainly has the ability there because his passing vision is straight up special, folks. But Ben Simmons is one of the best defenders in the NBA. He can legitimately guard positions 1 through 5. And if I went up to Ben Simmons and I was like, yo, Ben, you should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year over Rudy Gobert. You were first team all defense last year. You can legit guard every single position on the floor. During the 7-game series against the Phoenix Suns, this is the only team in our way to win the NBA championship. You have to defend DeAndre Ayton. Well, the good thing is with Ben Simmons, he doesn't really want to exhaust himself offensively with a lot of effort or shot creation. He can just exhaust all of his effort defensively. And you'd have a combination of Draymond Green and Ben Simmons at 6'11", 240 pounds, being able to at least limit DeAndre Ayton. So if you had to pick one among these 3 trade targets who we've talked about on today's show, who would you go with? Type MT for Myles Turner, JN for Nurkic, BS for Simmons. Be sure to get those votes in the comment section down below. Fascinated to see what you all come up with. And Golden State Warriors Today is the fastest growing Warriors channel here on YouTube. Join the party. Join the Dub Nation family. Hit that red subscribe button down below. Because our videos have been popping off and getting so many views, we've been pumping out more content. You want more content? Maybe even live shows in the future? Subscribe right now.